Let's turn our attention to that breaking news. The Prime Minister had announced about 40 minutes ago that Australia is committed to a new security partnership with the Solomons. Let's bring in Justin Bassi. He's Executive Director at ASPI. Justin, what do you make of this announcement? Good thing?
Very good thing, Kieran. Very positive. The announcement today that effectively enables the Australian government to work with Solomons to boost their police force through funding, infrastructure and support to build it in a sustainable way. Very, very important. And in particular, because we've seen in recent years as the Prime Minister went through, Solomons sign a deal with China relating to a security agreement. So this is important to effectively move the China agreement to one side and ensure that Solomons sees Australia as the partner of choice. Particularly important, both from an Australian perspective, that China doesn't increase its malign influence in the region, but also a clear separation. China does have strategic objectives. They are advancing their own interests in the region. What Australia does with this deal is help advance Solomon Islands and other nations in the region.
On the ASPI and think tank review, for our viewers that might not be aware, the government did undertake a review of funding into organisations like yours, the Strategic Policy Institute, a think tank, and others like yours. The review came back yesterday from the former Department of Foreign Affairs chief, and it said that essentially the government should look at the operational funding arrangements. Is this a risk to your organisation and groups like yours?
There's no doubt, Kieran, that the review was about ASPI. In fact, the author, Peter Varghese, said that he spent more time on ASPI than any other organisation, and there are pages and pages on ASPI, far more than any other organisation. In fact, the only other organisation that really has a substantive part of it is the AALD, which isn't really even a think tank. It, like us, has interests in the United States. Yeah, there are risks for ASPI. In particular, it targets the Washington, D.C. office, completely misunderstands why there would be use for Australia to have a strong office in Washington, D.C., particularly going into the Trump administration. But, Kieran, more broadly, beyond ASPI, there should be concerns for the entire think tank ecosystem, because the report, the review and the government's response effectively sets up a series of mechanisms that allows bureaucrats and ministers of the day to set think tank research priorities, yet think tanks should be independent of government. These are a series of mechanisms, including where the Secretary's Committee of National Security and the National Security Committee of Cabinet are the ones saying to the think tank sector, here's what you should be researching. It also sets up in the funding element that you referred to, effectively pits think tanks against each other, which might, in one sense, be healthy competition, but it effectively aims to say to think tanks, we will look favourably on those think tanks that just say good things about the government of the day.
On to some foreign policy, and Hamas looks like they're willing to make more compromises at the moment. A truce, we're hearing from some diplomatic sources out of the United States, could come before the end of the year. Is this because Trump warned that there would be hell to pay if he becomes president and the hostages have not been released?
I think it's a part of it, yes. That statement by Trump saying there would be hell to pay if the hostages weren't released clearly has had an impact. I think the current US administration has acknowledged that, which is very to their credit. But it's the combination, Kieran, of that, as well as the ongoing work of Israel to degrade Iran and its proxies. It has completely degraded Hezbollah. It has, of course, degraded Hamas. Iran is far less strong and less powerful than it was just a few months ago. And so Hamas is isolated. And so we are seeing the first time that combination of Trump coming in, of Israel's military power, Hamas, for the first time, we are seeing a sense that they might agree to a ceasefire that importantly agrees to release hostages. We simply cannot have a ceasefire that doesn't involve the release of those hostages.
100%. Yeah, there's no doubt that's got to be the starting point, doesn't it? Justin Bassi, appreciate your time today and throughout 2024. Look forward to seeing you next year. Thank you.
Indeed, you will.